Okay, we are live. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll just take a little time before we get going in here, but this is going to be a fantastic podcast. I'm so excited for this because this topic, it basically affects, I would say, 50% of my friends.
Yeah.
50% of my friends. That's where I'm at. And so with me is Krista Murphy, and Krista and I hit it off at a business marketing networking event. And wow, she is just it's so exciting to be able to talk with her because she's at ground zero of this great trend of firing your most talented people and running your business into the ground. So welcome, Krista. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining me. We're going to get into this a little bit. We're going to be talking about this trend, and I just have a quick. I can just show you a quick our audience a quick story. What we're talking about. This is the thing: is private equity is gutting America and getting away with it, and that's what's happening right now. So, Krista, you've been kind of seeing this, and you've been seeing these trends. So, tell us what's happening here. And by the way, and tell us tell us a little bit how you got into it and what you're all about.
Well, so I started my career in operations, and I worked in as a director of operations for a restaurant group for a very long time, and I loved it. Um, we could never, as a group, get an HR person who could really thread the needle between what is compliant and what are the realities of the day-to-day workforce, right? Because those are a lot of times, especially in the restaurant industry, very different things. You're not taking a break in the middle of service, right? How are you going to figure it out so that when you get audited by the DOL, you don't look like, it's some sort of sweatshop situation.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I started taking on some HR work, and I went back to school and I got very into HR, but I always think of myself as an ops person because that's where I came from and that's how my mind works.
Ah.
Yeah. So I believe so deeply in everything I'm doing, not necessarily because I read it in a SHRM textbook, but because it's the living, breathing reality of the workforce. And I want to start by saying replacing seasoned leaders with cheaper labor, no labor, which is what a lot of private equity does. We'll just remove that layer and then
Yeah.
push the work down to these like rock star supervisors who then become completely overburdened, or middle management, whatever, however they're layered. They remove a layer. Let's flatten out our organization and cut high salaries. It looks fantastic on a P&L sheet, right? We know that. Six figures gone overnight. We pat ourselves
Hey,
on
we're
the back,
stars, right?
right?
Wow.
Investors clap, but leadership isn't interchangeable in that way. These are the people who carry tribal knowledge, and they live the business through thick and thin, and they're removed. And I'm seeing it everywhere. And I know you and I connected about how the IRS has done this. What they've done on a macro scale, private equity is doing on a micro scale. And, you know, I see it so much that when a company comes to me, often too late, and says, Krista, what do we do? How do we fix this? I say, well, you're about 18 to 12 months in, right? And they say, yeah, how did you know that? How could you guess? And I'm like, you're right on time. You're right on time. And I got into it because I could see a lot of times in HR, especially with private equity, they have HR doing really administrative functions and not using HR to develop a true people strategy. They're running payroll, they're doing, 401k contributions and deductions, and they're just not taking advantage of the strategy side of the function. They look at it as administrative, and because of that, they lose out on any kind of people strategy. They swoop in, they buy a company, they slash leadership. It's always SG&A or indirect, right? What do these people do thinking it's too fat? Where all of your best leadership lives. And when I say, oh, well, this is what you did, right? They're like, how are you, witchcraft? How do you know this?
Oh
You're
my
not
God.
different than
Man.
any other one of these companies thinking they're brilliant, that they're just going to cut out all of this talent. It's crazy to me.
That's one. So we're gonna go over a little bit. I think we'll go a little bit how not to do it. We'll go a little bit
Yeah.
more of that. But you know what you're saying here, and it's just really, reminding me of something that I've learned from a lot of my friends, and we know the same people, some of them too. This is what I've noticed of them. The best engineers, the best managers know that the human function is the biggest part of the equation. And they know that the human being is the part of the equation that needs constant attention. Your tech, it can kind of, your tech, you can get in a maintenance role. It's your humans. And I've really watched it happen, how very successful, ops people, like yourself, no, they understand. No, the critical part of this is going to be the human beings. And I'm always so amazed when people get that, and then also amazed when people don't understand that you're treating people like an equation in a way that you would never want to be treated, yet you're thinking this is the key to success and isn't burning up your business. And what I've seen is that, and I actually, unfortunately, the private equity mindset did make its way around here. Oh boy, I had someone, oh boy. It did make its way around here. And this is really what I was pitched on to transform my business. This is what I was pitched on. And no kidding. Just basically, just have low level staff paying the bare minimum, have a website that stands basically for nothing, have a brand that stands for basically nothing, and low cost. And that is essentially victory. There it is. Now you have a $50 million firm. And
Yeah.
I was really thinking to myself, I'm like, so you have a brand that doesn't stand for anything and offers low value service. I'm like, I don't look, hey man, what do I know? What do I know here? But that doesn't seem like something that would really be a way to go. And it actually made me very sick
Yeah.
to really think about that. So luckily I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I think we're going to kind of go a different direction. And and now I'm really, the private equity dream was just sort of sold on me, 10 years ago. And I'm like, I don't think so. And I'm really glad that was never a part of my life, because it really is a nightmare. And actually, maybe we should talk about some of the things going on. So here's an article that I did put this, a good discussion point for us here. Let me get this up here. How do I get to both of us here to look at this? Trying to get oh, hang on. There we go. Here it is. There it is. Look at this. All right. Now here you can see. So here's the thing. And there's a nightmare. So private equity is gutting America. And you're probably living this. And you probably know about this, but this is the thing. So here's some stats I wanted to go. Oh my God. Should this even be legal? And it was honestly one of my good friends who explained to me that he was a very high level senior VP at a very profitable a tech company that had a really interesting way to market. And it was a really, really interesting thing. The job blew me away what it was. And it was actually a profitable thing. However, management performed a leverage buyout and saddled the company with debt so that all the profits went to the debt service. There was no way to sustain this building, because this business. And really when I analyze and discuss it with this entire thing, this leverage buyout, the only purpose it had was to put some immediate cash into the pockets of the people who got the deal.
Yep.
It gave them some immediate cash, and it gave them, now an asset that they don't care about, because, hey, look, you're owned by the debt. And so that's really what's happening. Is one of the biggest problems that we have is that you have people who are buying businesses with borrowed money. They don't have the incentive, right? And then they're just like, hey, look, here's my easy cash day. And then you screw up a whole bunch of people. So here's the part that was like shocking, where it's like, well, look, this isn't just us people losing jobs here.
Yeah.
This is not just people losing jobs, but here we go, Krista. Companies bought by private equity firms are far more likely to go bankrupt than companies that aren't. Over the last decade, private equity firms were responsible for nearly 600,000 job losses in the retail sector alone.
Yep.
In nursing homes, where the firms have been particularly active, private equity ownership is responsible for an astounding 20,000 premature deaths over a 12-year period. So if we say private equity is killing us, yes, I mean,
It's killing
that's
people. Yeah, absolutely. And if it's not going to kill you, you're definitely having an anxiety disorder and are heavily medicated by the time you finally pull your PTSD ridden corporate body to another employer.
oh my God, it is awful out there. I'm just sort of, I've had my own struggles. So, running your own firm has a struggle, but I'm sort of thankful for the struggles I've had right now because this is really, really terrible. Now, interestingly, I've been, I'm this is a tax channel. I talk about tax, and I have a lot of friends in the IRS. I was talking to a high level manager at the IRS, large business and international. Okay, so this is a high level guy who handles the highest level international corporate complexities, craziness he has, and he manages a team of people. So he explained to me, and this is actually probably the important thing. And let me get to this. Let me get this up here because there was a Supreme Court case that basically they were all waiting for before they're about to leave, because this is what's going to happen here. So this right here, this story came out. The Supreme Court now allows Trump to fire federal workers. Essentially what he was telling me was that they were waiting on how this decision came out. If the Supreme Court allowed Trump to fire federal workers, he said, okay, the IRS is basically over at that point.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He goes, so I saw that. I said, okay, because what he told me is this. He said, during the recent, he goes, they actually did pick up really talented people in 2024. The IRS
Yeah.
went years without getting any staff. They actually did a really good job recruiting and got great people. All those people, no, not all those people were gone. They hung on. They were able to get a couple back, but nearly every one of them gone. And he
Yeah.
just flat out said to me, as it is right now, we will never be able to recruit like we did before because we pulled the rug out on people.
Yeah.
We worked
Absolutely.
so hard, right? And then the team members themselves, he himself worked hard. He would go to these events and, hey, yeah, you should work at the IRS. It's a great place. It's a great place. And then when it's not a great place, well, that's really, I think, a huge problem. So there's going to be a big shift at the IRS, and this is sort of the thing that is I think fatal for it, is that I know a lot of my favorite appeals agents, the ones who haven't retired, because 2017 was a terrible year for the IRS. They lost more senior staff that year than any other year, mostly through attrition.
Yeah.
Um,
Early retirement too, right? A
Early,
lot.
yeah, and now that and I've talked to him for the years. Hey, how long are you going to be there? Hey, we're going to be here until it gets miserable. Then I'm going to leave. That was what I was told for the last 10 years. And so
Yeah.
now it's so miserable. Like, okay, that's it. They've all been looking. Everyone has been looking. No one's been like, nope, I'm just going to work at the IRS. I'm not going to look at the options. But a lot of applications are going out right now from IRS employees. I'm getting a few too. It's very nice. It's just sort of hard to say, well, if you're not going to be auditing these returns, well, then who am I going to be working? What cases are you going to be working on? So I'm like, I'm not sure exactly. So I think where we have it is that when your manager, this is the thing I think is really crazy, is when your own boss has quietly quit. That is, your own boss will show up for meetings and not say, hey, I quit, but not do the job, and is spending, whenever they are at their desk, they're using it to spend their time to look for another job.
Yeah. And it
So
happens a lot. And then if the person who was there that was keeping you feeling engaged and safe, you watch them leave, and they're going to tell you, depending on who they are as a person, oh, the commute was getting a little hard, or I just want to spend more time with family, I have to get back to me. And your limbic brain that can pick up people being full of it is like, that's not why you're leaving. You're leaving because you know that this is a dumpster fire. And now that you're gone, I have absolutely no engagement. I have no reason to stay in this toxic workforce, except for I'm just waiting it out to see when I get the next better thing, hopefully better thing. And what happens then is what's exactly what you said is happening to you. You're just gifting your competitors your best talent. You poured all of this time into training and developing and giving them all of your institutional knowledge and secrets. to hand them fully formed to your competitor. I bet someone who worked for the IRS is going to be amazing for you. They know exactly what they need to do. They know the best argument to make to get the outcome that they're looking for because they did it. This is happening all over manufacturing in Connecticut right now. And it's crazy. These little niche industries who say, well, I'm a niche industry. There's 10 other people in your niche in a 50-mile radius. And all of the ones who are doubling down on leadership are just, they're quietly, and there's the opportunity, they're just quietly scooping up all of the best talent. And you made cuts, so your EBITDA would look better. Who do you think improves that? It doesn't just go up on its own. It's the leaders who do it. That mid-level, right? Like your director level, usually at a lot of companies, who are the translators from the C-suite's ideas and vision to actually the floor, right? And they think, well, the middle managers
You're
are the
just the
ones who are,
middleman, right? You're just the
yeah,
middleman.
they're just a talking head. Do you think that people like communication? They love it. How many times have you heard in a toxic workforce, I wish I knew? Nobody told me. There's no communication strategy. There's no people strategy. And the companies who are doing even a little bit of it, they're not great at it. They're maybe even not good, but they're doing it a little bit, are mopping up talent, and they can pay a little bit less because, especially Gen Z, they would rather have a smaller paycheck and wake up feeling psychologically safe that they matter, that every day when they go to work, they live a purposeful life. That means so much more than an extra $30 a week.
It's like the lack of intangibles.
Yeah.
It's like private equity isn't willing to admit there's things as intangibles. They don't exist, but we know they do it. And I'm thinking as you're discussing this, I'm thinking I've actually been very lucky. I had 1 year working for a Fortune 500 company in that rote office job. It was Ford Motor Credit. Right before law school, it's kind of what made me go to law school. I'm like, I don't know about doing this for the rest of my life. I kind of got to find something to do. But the job was incredibly awesome because it showed me what reality was. It showed me what reality was. And like, look, it's a corporate job with this and that. But the thing that made the job enjoyable was, a few people there. A few
Yes.
people like, oh man, it's like, and and then I saw, when I told them I was going to law school, like, no, you can't. You need to be here. You're funny.
Right.
And that's what people really miss is that intangible. So we're right. When you lose that person who made your life possible, because like, what else do you have to do? 1 year, I got a consultant in here to help out kind of, hey, motivate the workforce. And he really said something fascinating to me. It's fascinating to the group. And, I think it was really because I wasn't exactly a strong leader, maybe back then, way back then. But he said something like this, and it was like, look, your job is where you're going to be spending most of your waking hours.
Yeah.
Don't you want your most waking hours to be as enjoyable as possible? And I said, well, that's so smart and it's so obvious. And that's what people are actually looking for.
Yeah.
They're looking to make their day as enjoyable as possible. What they understanding they got to go do something they don't want to do, but they're trying to make it as enjoyable as possible. So making a fun workplace, making it interesting, making it a challenge, treating them as part of it. It's the most obvious thing in the world. And when you're doing
Yeah.
like, what are you? You're looking at everything but the most important facts. And so, I think the thing is so what if you're working at a place and your boss has quietly quit, should you stay there? Or are you just like, okay, I really should be going too? That's probably one of the biggest warning signs when that has happened,
Yeah.
right?
If you have a boss that you believe to be a great leader who you've seen systematically lose all of their engagement, they're the dam that is holding that back from you. And the second that they leave, all of that stress from the upper levels is coming for you at full force. And if you are in middle management and you've never had that like director or VP level seat, you don't know from you don't know what's coming for you in terms of the pace, the rapid changes, all of the translation that you're going to have to do. You are not prepared for it. because the person who could prepare you to level up has decided it's not worth it to stay at a company this toxic. They're probably pretty highly paid. If the toxic and private equity came in and didn't cut them, the reason that they're leaving is because they have woken up to the fact that, like you said, every day, 40 to 50 to 60 hours a week, I am here wasting my life and my talent so the lender gets paid back, not even the company.
Right. Exactly. For some lenders that you don't know. And
Yep.
and that's what's so disgusting. And it's like, okay, this is soul crushing. And yeah, I've seen some friends of mine, health vastly improve after they've left such a toxic place.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely. Now, I want to get on something we talked about before. I want to talk about this right now. I want to know how not to acquire or merge with a firm. You've been seeing the disasters, and it seems like there's a whole timeline to this whole. There's a whole timeline to the whole realization. I imagine we have 12 steps of denial, acceptance, bargaining. I mean, so walk us through the whole process of how a company realizes they're merging and acquiring totally wrong, and then the disasters that ensue, and kind of the logical impact of what happens next.
First thing that they do wrong is they don't have, and it doesn't even need to be HR, right? They don't have people-centric leaders in the room developing a strategy. They have no people strategy. They have no metrics that focus on people. Every metric that they have is a financial metric. They have no metrics for psychological safety, for engagement, for churn, for any of the things that they need to be looking at. And what that tells me is you're only looking at half of your business. And a lot of times if I say that to a CFO, it clicks. They go, oh, metrics? We can track some of this intangible stuff. Yes. And if you had those people in the room when you started strategizing, would you have potentially hit some stumbling blocks? Yes, but you would have been so much more likely to succeed. But they don't bring you in until every cost-cutting tactic or Pizza Friday that they thought was going to just make morale super amazing didn't work. And then they say, well, like, I guess as like a last-ditch effort, we'll bring in this woman who maybe knows a little, maybe she'll be able to translate to the people why we're not this, evil corporation. And I don't think generally I have met very few people in my career who I would look at and say like they are bereft of any moral compass. Most of these people are just not informed with the better way to do it. They're not evil. They are financially driven. They are task driven. And that's why in the room, you need the soft, quote, soft skills that aren't soft, that drive teams to engage. We talk about discretionary effort, right? A lot in HR. Discretionary effort is I might go into work. Let's say I worked for you and I come in and I'm the secretary and I answer the phones all day and I do everything. And when it's my review, you're like, she's meeting all of my like true expectations. The discretionary effort is what makes an employee go from meeting expectation to blowing you out of the water, because I care, because I'm engaged, because when I'm answering the phone, I'm like chopping it up with the people that call all of the time. And I am adding positively to your culture. It takes a certain kind of personality to do that. And private equity does not invest in that personality. And they don't bring them in the room until it's far, far too late. And manufacturing in general in Connecticut has this problem. They need a little bit of soul. Best thing you can do, go hire somebody who used to work in a restaurant. Yeah. These are people like really, that's the missing link.
That, and so well-rounded. Restaurants have a lot of things going on. That's for sure. And what your comment really reminded me of a conversation I had with one of my clients. He's a long-term client, and he's a fascinating guy. He's one of the biggest wealth managers in the state of Connecticut right now. And since he's been a client, he has blown up incredibly, not due to me, trust me, no. And it really, I would talk to him about mergers and acquisitions, because he often is acquiring smaller entities. And he told me, he goes, if you're doing it based on the financials, it's going to fail. That's what he told me. He says, it's never about the financials. It's about how they get along. Do you have a compatible culture? Do the founders like each other? The leader of this one like the leader of this one? Do they like each other? Do they respect each other? That's what he flat out said. He's like, yeah, if you're looking at the numbers, it's going to fail. If that's the reason why you're doing it, it's 100%. So interesting. So it's really looking, and I think that's really looking at the human component. And one thing that I find fascinating is that the one, and I love brands, and I love how brands work. I love the whole psychology behind brands, why it works. The most powerful brand in the world today, that is by brand, that if you put this logo on something, it will make that thing sell. Okay. The most powerful brand in the world today is Ferrari. That is the one, and has been for over 10 years. Ferrari has been the number one power brand in the world. And the question is why? Why? And because Enzo Ferrari was a kind of an arrogant, know-it-all, did it his way, kind of pain in the butt, who talked crap about everybody, but he did it his way. And it was about, and that's the thing. The Ferrari is a valuable brand because of the specific personality of its founder.
Yeah.
And that he didn't get there to say, oh, you know what, guys, we want to cut costs on this one. Let's nerd this out a little bit. We'll get this a little bit cheaper. Let's do that. No, he had a vision. And he wanted to stand up for that vision and tell it like it is. And I'm going to die on this hill. And then that's how you create the valuable brand. Whereas you're trying to appease these your lender. Basically, your lender is stripping out all of the value, which also gets me to, I've been finally, and I might be getting way out there, but I was finally got to reading Dante's Divine Comedy. And it was either in the Inferno. I'm halfway through the Purgatory, somewhere in there. I think actually it was in the Inferno. He explained the problem. He said that usury, the payment of interest, destroys art because it takes you away from your true work, which is true art, true work, true everything. Usury is always stripping away value. It puts money into the hands of people who don't know what to do with it. And it takes money away from people who do know what to do with it. And so that's actually one of the fascinating things about this, when we see the corrosive, destructive power of usury, interest payments that people just can't keep up with. And it's like, well, what exactly did these people do to get this money? It's like, well, they knew a banker. Okay, so you didn't really add any value. No, we didn't at all. So you're having people who don't really add value controlling things, saying make more money, but taking away the people who make that magic happen. That seems like what it is going on. All right, so let's talk about.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead, Krista.
It's funny that you say that when you're talking about brand, because at some point Enzo found, if he wasn't himself a great leader, he surrounded himself with people who were. Otherwise, he would have ended up like American Apparel, right? So like another really seductive brand. They had so much of the market share. They were doing all of the things seemingly right, but they had a founder who was just in scandal after scandal after scandal, and didn't hire anybody who had any real leadership chops. And if he did, I'm sure those antics that he was pulling pushed those people right out, but hired people who had like the look, like a bunch of hipster kids. And you can get away with it for a while. You can pull up some market share, but you're not going to become Ferrari unless you take that raw passion that your visionary or founder has, and you surround yourself with a bunch of integrator type personalities who are like, that's the vision, you want to get to the top of the mountain, Enzo? Okay, let's go. But we're going to need hiking boots. We're going to need some ropes. We're going to need some granola bars and all the things that visionary is like, mountain, go, passion, let's do it. They need to balance themselves out with the people who are going to say, all right, we needed a sandwich break. We walked for 20 miles today. And great visionaries know that about themselves, and they find those people and they bring them in. And I think it's really easy when you're in a room of only analytical financial types and visionaries to forget that you need that person who's looking out for everybody else around them.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you. And this feels a little bit like therapy for me, by the way, because That you're like, because that's exactly what I've done. I've surrounded myself, I surrounded myself with guys who can handle anything I can handle.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing, amazing thing to watch. And I see the change because what happens is you don't want to let down your buddy. You can't
Yeah.
let down your buddy. They came through for you. They came
Mhm.
for you big time. So, oh boy. So then that's when you have the right culture going. You don't want to let down your buddy who just helped you out. You can't. I mean, that's really getting the human actions to get going. I wanted to get to one other topic. Oh, you know what? And people might be saying like, well, hey, Ferrari's a luxury brand. That's easy to do. You can't do it other ways. But I want to thank Johnny Thunders with this comment because exactly the point. Because this is two different visionaries. Henry Ford, different type of vision than Ferrari. Henry Ford is like he's like an uncle in my family. And really why? Because Henry Ford, he hated manual labor. His whole thing was like, you know what? I'm a farm boy. As a farm boy, I can't stand this crap. We got to get machines to do this. And his vision was like, no, I want to help as much as humanity as possible with getting out of this backbreaking nonsense. And he went ahead and created, what was the most valuable brand at one point. And not just on a logo to put on there. And I think Sherry says she wants a Ferrari logo for her garden. Yeah, I think watch those bloom. Yeah, watch those bloom. And the things like if you stand for something, and Henry Ford has actually, he was kicked out of his first company because they didn't want to do. They were like, no, what are you talking about? We're going to sell luxury vehicles. What are you talking about? Like, no, I'm here for the common man. No, we're here for the investors, buddy. Poor, the common man doesn't have money. But that was not his vision, and he believed in it so much. He started it. I mean, he basically created, the automobile industry in America, and really made it for everybody. So there's a great example of totally different things, but how to create very, very powerful brands. And unfortunately, yeah, Sherry, yeah, Jaguars sort of let that one go. I did see a weird. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I did see an ad that looked like, are they selling a car? Not sure. Um, so I think, one thing is like, so we know what's going on. And now we've talked a little bit about where the opportunities are. Okay. So there's opportunities. So if you have a small, medium-sized company, you're in a position here to say, hey, hang back. You're going to be picking up great stuff. Just be good. Right. I mean, would you say so they have an opportunity? Now, this is what I'm thinking, because I want to know something, and I don't think we answered this. Where has that talent gone? That's what I want to know. It's like, okay, we've been laying off all these high-end people. And I know some of my friends they've gotten other jobs here and there, and I know where they're going. And yes, sometimes they're not, and especially in medicine. Medicine is brutal. Oh my God. That's the M&A work going on there. It's making, the practice of medicine going. So I do know where some of the people going, but where is this talent going? Hey, look, you got rid of your middle managers. Great. So what are they up to? What are they going to do?
So I think I love this question because everybody asks me this all of the time. Every mixer, people were, you're out to drinks and people hear that you're in HR. Where's all the talent? Where did it go? Let me tell you, top talent did not evaporate, it evolved. Right? These people are doing maybe what I'm doing. I'm going to start my own thing. I know the right way to do it. Why not me? Why don't I found the company that should do it the right way? And a lot of them are consulting, or they've gone to work for a smaller company and they're the person walking in, kicking down the door saying, you want to level up? Hire me. I know you probably can't pay me the $250 I was getting at private equity, but I will take you here. And when we get there, you will pay me that. And these companies, these small companies who haven't ever had a taste of real leadership like that they're swallowing up all of this talent. They're getting it for a song, and they're the companies to go to. They're the companies to watch. They're the ones that have a chef's kitchen in them, and everybody eats lunch together, and the culture still lives and breathes the way it does, right? Like 50 years ago when you got your gold watch, private equity is only giving you a kick in the ass on the way out. They're not giving you anything. There are places like this, and they're slowly going to eat up all of the market share because it's not going to last. Quiet quitting. the complete exit
Yeah.
talent. Like your low performers will stay. They're busy scrolling TikTok and taking a fifth break because the person who was comfortable having a hard conversation that used to hold them accountable, private equity came in and said, I don't really think that they do anything. They're just kind of always talking to people. Get rid of them. They're totally replaceable. Push that work down to our once great middle management who is now, scrambling around because they have way too much work to do that they don't understand. And it's not going, we're at that breaking point now. We're watching people say, I hear it all the time. It wasn't worth my health. I do a lot of interviewing, right? For a company that I work for, whatever company it is, whenever they need to hire, they say, Krista, we want you to interview the person first because I've beaten to their heads the way that we have to interview people and that behavioral assessments actually are worth something. And let's find the right person because we can train for skills. I can't train you to be an affable guy that like the people where you worked before who were like, please don't leave. You make us laugh. You are a bright spot in the otherwise kind of rote day that I live. You can't find that out on one of those Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, no, right.
Like you need to talk to them and ask them the right kind of questions. So when I am interviewing these people, I don't ask the typical interview questions of like, give me 3 to 5, blah, blah, blah. No, what personality traits do you butt heads with? Tell me about your worst boss. And I get them to start opening up and
Ooh, those are good questions.
see who they are. And so many times when we start having that conversation, we get into it, I hear them say, it just wasn't worth my life anymore. I started having anxiety attacks. I was breaking out. I gained 40 pounds, whatever it was. I couldn't keep doing this to my family and my life. And this like collective unconscious, people are just waking up all over the place right now going, it's not worth it. There's no amount of money you could pay me to keep doing this. There are so many people I've heard say that when, 3 weeks after they call me and they say, this is what happened. And he said, like, we threw a bag of money at him and he said, keep your money. I want my life. I want passion and I want purpose. And that means more to me in my one life than an extra 50 grand.
And by the way, if you are someone in middle management, and what Krista just said was absolutely, as a business owner myself, what Krista just said would be incredibly powerful. If a middle manager came, knocked on my door, Anthony, you need to level up in this area right here. This is my specialty right here. This is where I want you to go here. I'm I'm okay taking a pay cut. I'm okay, and I'm okay with that. And then a lot of business, that's really number one. Is cash flow is number one. But when you immediately come in and show your value, that's very good. I would not object to someone knocking down my door to say, hey, look, you need to level up. I can help you with this specific thing here. This is really my specialty, and I see a real opportunity. I would love that. Honestly, that would be a breath of fresh air. So I think that's just sort of, if you are in that position, and if you're still working there, and it's maybe if you're still at the IRS watching this right now, saying,
call Anthony.
Hey, think about what you really need to survive on, and say, what are you looking at? What you are looking at. Reach out to. By the way, private equity has gotten into law, and this is what they've done is they've been buying the law management practice, and then that is taking a cut of the overall revenue, and then the partners get a percentage of their billables. So they're taking so the entire back end part of it, because a law firm is technically can only be owned by lawyers. So they create a whole management structure, and there was one which I don't think, which was probably a good idea for the founders that went out in New York, that was kind of everyone was talking about last year, where they sold their law office management company to private equity for $100 million. They both got $50 million and left. And then I'm just thinking to myself, well, what did the private equity buy? What did you buy in all of this? That, all of the systems are all known. Everyone's using pretty much the same tech stack. There's no technology difference you have or advantage you have. Maybe years ago you could have, when before, back 20 years ago, all the law office management software was terrible. Oh my God, it was expensive, clunky, limited. Oh God, oh God, was it expensive? And now it's a commodity. And all of these things are a commodity. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how many, what's the value here? And then the problem is this too, is that many of these high priced attorneys, and this is what you find out, these people billing, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, really, it's just like ridiculous. Well, what you find out something is they have like 2 clients that are willing to pay that, so they can bill like 20 hours a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the thing, they're actually forced to bill at that rate. They can't, like, no, look, I don't need to charge that much. It's all right. I don't need it. But they're forced to do that. And they're like, well, okay, I'm not going to get a lot of work then. I don't have many clients who do that. So those are especially the kind of people they're maybe frustrated at a firm like that I wouldn't mind if you, there's my email right there, Krista. There it is. People like that to say, hey, yeah, you're having a hard time dealing with private equity. I think that's really it. And now this is the answer I wanted for myself. This is really the answer I wanted for myself and for a lot of these, a lot of the middle management that got kicked to the curb. I feel for them. I identify with you, man. I was there with you. So I think we got some great solutions for them. It's like, look, you're going to have to get out there. There's going to be smaller firms, whether in law, in heat treating, whatever it is. No matter where it is, if you look for the smaller guy who has something you believe in. Right?
Absolutely. And, I think what's beautiful about it, Anthony, is that like we can vibe on this all day because we believe the same thing about work and life and people, but the data shows it too. Project Aristotle Google studied 180 internal teams to decide what was that intangible pixie dust that some of these amazing teams had at Google, right? Which is obviously not an underfunded, like
no,
they have all of the tools, all of the tech, they do all of the things. And so they studied these 180 teams, and it wasn't where you went to school. It wasn't how much money you made. It wasn't how technically skills you were, how much, any of that. The one thing that made a high performing team was psychological safety. The one thing. And I mean, think about that.
Whoa.
For a second, right? At Google, all the cutting edge tech and brain power in the world. And the real differentiator was the basic human need to feel safe, to have peace of mind at work. And so it's like, it's not my opinion, although obviously it is mine from lived experience. It is fact studied data that this tech company said, we'll find the perfect exact combination of, maybe high performers and, these other people. Nope. Psychological safety. Number one with a bullet.
Oh my God. Psychological safety. I've never put those. I think I spelled that right. That is blowing my mind. And when you're saying that, it reminds me of something my dad said years ago, just an off comment. He just says the number one job, he said the number one job when you're at school is to fit in. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that's right. And I think that's what people are looking for. And, when you're joining a new firm, new entity, you're always wondering, like, are my contributions helping?
Yep.
And when you don't know if you're helping or not, guess what? You don't feel safe. Am I at risk here? Right? It's like, that's giving you all the wrong warnings. You need to, people know, like, you're safe here. Hey, look, there's a process if something's not working out. You'll know. We'll talk about it. There's a safety, you're okay here. And I'd never ever put it together as safety, but that's the security that you're looking for, to say, hey, it's a good place I go to. Hey, they're good people. It's all fine. There's ups and downs, but they're generally good people. It's a good place. I like it. But you're right. The psychological safety. And I think it's something that, what's the point? What is the point of making money when you're miserable? And I've seen it happen. I've had, plenty of clients making a lot of money, totally miserable, not able to pay their taxes, and they're still totally miserable living that. And it's like, well, what are you really getting by chasing after those things. After chasing after those things you were told to chase after, it's what do you really get? And so really you're kind of reducing what you actually need to get happy, I think, is one of the wins. And then this is really what I would say happens. And I could kind of saw it happening to me. Fortunately, I never got the job, but in law school, you're going to law school. I didn't really know anything about the market. I just was going, I'll go to law school. Then I was in law school. I kind of learned what the market was all about. Hey, look, if you want a big salary, you got to go to the big firms where they're prestigious. I'm like, big firms are prestigious? I didn't know any of this. Like, what? They are? Like, why? Okay. So I learned kind of the culture. And so I was like, okay, so what were the big firms paying back in 2002, back, when I graduated? They were paying about $1.50 a year. And I was making, when I was working at Ford Credit, I made $32,000 a year.
That seems like,
I was like, I'm like, oh my God, this could change my life. This could change my life. I've never seen, like, oh my God, whoa, 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 whoa. And I started thinking, like, yeah. But what happens, and I saw it happen, as soon as you get that salary, your living expenses go right up to what you're making. And the reason why is because you're miserable and you deserve to treat yourself to something.
Yeah.
So that in order to counter your misery that your high paying job is creating, you go and blow your money away and waste it. And by the way, your marginal tax rates are going up, up and up and up. And that's why you're not running out of things, because you're really thinking that money is going to solve your problem today. Your problem today is how can I not be miserable?
Yeah,
How can I not be
and
miserable?
all of the things that you think that I talk about this a lot with my advisory clients or coaching clients. Some people like the term coach. Some people would prefer to think of me as an advisor, whatever makes them feel better. But the leaders who I work with in my coaching capacity, we talk about happiness all of the time, because you can't be a great leader that shows up for their people when you are a miserable human being. You can't. And I think a lot of times they have this epiphany as we start talking, and I give them different books to read and we go through different exercises, and it's the work of my life. And it's so powerful when I can get them to a place where they say, Krista, I've never been this happy before in my life. I've never felt this focused and this purposeful. And it's the realization that you are constantly, and this is a lot of high performing people who are, once I get the thing, happiness will follow. Once I get the hot wife and the Ferrari and the big house on the hill or whatever it is, once I have all of that stuff that this capitalist society has told me will make me happy, then I can relax and be happy. But the reality is, you put yourself in a state of happiness first, and all of the great things that life really has to offer to you come. And a lot of times it's the house and the car and whatever. But more than that, they're starting to realize, oh, I don't even really care about all of that stuff the way that I thought that I did. And let's go for a walk outside in Cotton Hollow or somewhere beautiful. And oh my God, isn't it amazing to connect with nature, to have a conversation with somebody who believes the same thing that you believe, and you feel connected again? But we've been sold the lie of, you got to work super, super hard at a corporation that like maybe doesn't care about you at all, for someone who is going to replace you in 5 minutes. No, if you double down in your business on psychological safety, you hire people you can't wait to work with, and you love what you do, you've created connection, and that will always beat out a quick profit or these illusionary metrics we create with all of these cuts. It doesn't mean anything to people. And everybody reaches up, maybe not everybody, most people reach a point in their life where they're like, I've been sold a real bill of goods over here. I've put myself in debt chasing the happiness that I could have found over a cup of coffee with a buddy.
Yeah. And then, unfortunately, you're making me think of so many, unfortunately, again, a lot of doctors, they've been chasing this dream, and now they're out in practice, and they're realizing how the tax code and the whole financial system is designed to keep them working 80, 90 hours a week. and really what do they get for themselves after they support, all their loans, all their schools, the hospital, all these, trust me, hospitals have profits. They just don't have shareholders they have to share them with. There's profits for sure. And I mean, it's awful. And, I have friends who quit medicine because they were told to do surgeries that weren't exactly necessary, but insurance was covering them. And that's a
Wow.
hard, that's what goes on. I mean, hey, look, we got to get the bottom line up here. We're a nonprofit. We got to get our profits up. And, they're just using people up there. So, they're finding other things to do, which, not their highest value, but it's a miserable world. Now I got some comments here, and it just, I'm going to, this is very interesting. Sherry interviewed to be George Soros's executive assistant about 14 years ago. I know many of these people, and
Souls,
I could
yes, Sherry, preach.
no souls, and then by the way, I have I don't, I would say this: I have a lot of friends who work for a lot of these people in the news that you hear, and they are about as evil as you could be, and they would just tell them like, well, "What's your complaint? We pay you enough." And it's just like, okay, get out, get out, get out, get out. Okay, how long? Let me get out of here, because it is utterly evil. When you see sort of the McKinsey consultants, some of the things they've done, when you're working for a firm that's driven by McKinsey, that's going to be an ugly. That's not going to be fun, because they're looking at you the same way. Right.
Yeah.
They're looking at you as just another whatever. Hey, look, so what? Oh, Shears got more here. You were fired from a Wall Street bank when I turned in my boss for stealing. Yes. Well, I turned her around 5 years later and had her fired when I dropped off evidence that DF recalled her. Oh my God. Wow. All right. I'm glad we're friends, Sherry. All right. We're good, right, Sherry? Right. We're okay. And then Johnny Thunders, and I think this is a big thing going on here too. I agree with you on this. One of the biggest problems that we have is that, we have 1-2 people controlling basically every corporate board. There's no such things as corporations anymore. They're all one big large entity, and the tax code supports all of these large entities because it all encourages you, save for your retirement, give more of your control to Larry Fink. Every time that you're saving for your retirement. And Larry Fink got the Secure Act 2.0 passed through Congress, which expanded the amount of money Americans are basically forced to save because the tax system. So it's all such a terrible, terrible scheme. And one of the things that I've mentioned for years is you seeing the connection from what's going on in the workplace in our daily lives, and then the bigger issues about what's going on. Because this is kind of where I'm at. And as I see this doing this, as I see it, we have this one big, beautiful bill passed. I mean, come on. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the most obscene thing ever. And the fact that people are defending it, it's the quickest way to shut anyone up who thinks it's a good thing is like, oh, have you read it?
Yeah, right.
Boy, does that shut them up. Oh my God. It's like they don't know what to do with that. Oh, Jesus, guys got me. All right. And this is what I would say is because, there is no remedy for politics. That's where I'm at. I'm like, there's no voting out of this because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. The government is a criminal conspiracy. That's actually what it is. Politics are a way to get the powerful more power. That's what it exists to do. We don't have a rule of law, really. The common law or constitutional rights are lowercase have been overruled by statutes, and hopefully the people will claim that back, because this is where we're at. My observation is the job of the government is to saddle Americans with as much Federal Reserve debt as possible without telling them. Of course, lying and acting like, we don't know how this happened. Oh my God, it went up by $1 billion. What? I don't know how it happened. We don't know, but okay, we just did though. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. Just like inflation. We know what causes it, the Federal Reserve printing more money. It doesn't have. It just creates it from thin air. But the government's job is like, we don't know what that is. We don't know what's causing inflation. Well, you know what? It's animal spirits or whatever nonsense they have. So that's really what the job of the government is to do, is they're there to saddle debt. Well, guess what? The job of private equity is saddle businesses with as much Federal Reserve debt as possible. That is what's happening. And you see, as we are getting squeezed on the individual and business level, debt. That's all everyone is interested in just making sure that you have debt so that we're always at the mercy of people. And by the way, they invented they just created the money from thin air. It's not like
Yeah.
it's backed by gold. It's just like, oh yeah, here, now you can pay us back with what? With what? So I mean, it's really crazy. So this is my really hot take on all of this is like, well, the problem is the Federal Reserve. We don't have sound money. We don't have sound money. We have usury. We can never, and I think this is the thing is like, well, this is the reality. This is what we're going to have. We're always going to have a Federal Reserve, or maybe we won't, but we have that stripping our value out of. One of the things, and I tell people this, and they always say, wow, I think you're right. If you look at why don't we have great architecture anymore? And if you look at the decline of architecture in America of great buildings, and they're still made here and there, but as an everyday down your own city street. I mountain bike a lot, road bike a lot in Connecticut. All the races are always in these backwards old towns that used to be something. Yeah. When you go into these backwoods towns of like Fitchburg, Massachusetts, in the backwoods of Vermont, New Hampshire, you come to all these really cool towns that had these really elaborate buildings made. Like, wow, they had some serious wealth here. When you go upstate New York, the Canal Line, those were all wealthy towns. Those were all wealthy towns with great architecture, except you'll notice one thing. Nothing was built after 1913. That's when the Federal Reserve was created. Our architecture, our small towns, our way of life, all has been on the decline. Towns, cities, the city, Meriden, Connecticut, which is, in a little distress right now. You went there to get rich. That's 100 years ago, you went there to get rich, and you would get rich. And that's kind of where I'm seeing this going. And not necessarily something you have to sign on to, but that's kind of where I see the problem, the bigger problem. And I do like your point that it's not people who are evil. It's not evil. They don't know what's actually happening.
Look at the beautiful theater politics creates for them. It gives them these low-level things to fight about, or it embroils them in what seems like a very ethical. It's a theater, right? And you're not watching all the things that are really happening to you. And like you said, connecting the Fed to private equity to like the basic happiness of an individual, because you're so stuck, you're scrolling, you're in everything that they want you to do. You are plugged into their matrix day in and day out on your screen, watching it, fighting about it in the comments, wasting your one life where you could be doing something to actively try and change it. But you have been made to believe that your voice does not matter. If it didn't matter, they would not struggle so hard to silence it.
Oh my God. This is great. All right. Here's something I heard yesterday, and I got to say, this seemed like this comment. I read that somewhere. Politics is idolatry. Huh. That you're worshiping these people as if they're going to help you. And you're like, and you pick your idols, and your idols can't stand those idols. And well, hey, this idol stands anti that. Not that I agree with them 100%, but they're not those people I really can't stand. Yeah. And it's like, we have to accept it is just complete idolatry. And years ago I said, America would be better if we just voted for a king. Not that it would have any political power, but just give someone the right to be king. So we know, like, okay, we can have our politics drama. So get it out of the system. And, but we can't have it in our policy, in our law. Politics is poisonous to law. Politics is anti-law. And again, this is where I'm really going on this whole common law kick. That there is no remedy to politics because it is idolatry. Really what we need to do is the people have the ultimate right. And I think where we're headed, and this is where I think we're going to go in the next 10 years, is that the people are going to learn how much power they have over this government. And it's our job to regulate them. Now, they've taken away our tools to regulate them. And interestingly, I've been researching this, a little sidebar, state of Connecticut. In 1982, the state of Connecticut took away the people's right to convene a grand jury to investigate government corruption. So that is, the government is the only one allowed to investigate government corruption. Well, right. Yeah. So that's why this isn't a rule of law. I think it's idolatry. And I think it's a great point. It's idolatry, distracting, that always ends up in the same thing, more Federal Reserve debt for all of us. no
What
matter
you said,
what.
I think, is it's making me think of, we were kind of chopping it up over email about when are all of the people going to go buy back the company that they loved before it got sold to private equity. Why not? When is it going to start happening? Because there's definitely an upside there, and they're going to bring back, and you see some companies are doing it, right? And they're really doubling down on their people and they're being successful. When are they going to say, oh, it's our turn?
Oh,
We're gonna come back and we're gonna take back the soul of America.
there we go. I love it. That's what I'm hoping to do. I hope people do it. There is a story that happened, and this happened in the bike industry. And so here's one. As you know, I'm a mountain bike around here. I love doing it. And years ago, and I used to work at North Haven Bike years ago when I was in law school. And one day the Kona bicycles came by. The rep from there, this guy Dale, really great guy. You know, he fit the vibe very well. He's like, "Oh, hey man, we're looking for some guys to help us at a mountain bike festival in Massachusetts." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll definitely do that." You know, they're the cool guys.
Yeah.
They're the cool guys. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll help you out." And you know, so I helped it out. So I went up there, helped them out. Fun day to be had by all. You know, demonstrate bikes, and you know, it was just cool. You know, be with the cool guys. And then they took us out to dinner afterwards, and I was sitting down with our local, the Northeast sales rep, and I was also with the director of marketing for the entire brand. And so he said this to me, and it blew my mind. And this was probably 2004, 2005. He said, "We're not a bike company." I said, "You're not?" He goes, "No, we're a lifestyle company." And then I said, "Oh my God, I get it now. You're right." When I went through all of that, what I knew of them as a brand, I'm like, "You're right. You weren't buying a Kona because it was the lightest, because it wasn't. You weren't buying it because it was the best performer. It wasn't. It was rugged and cheap, and it would do the thing. And it had the right sort of aura about it." And so you know, I haven't been working in a bike shop for years, but Kona sold out. Those guys, those hippy dippies, sold out to private equity. And then I heard that, I'm like, "Oh God, they're not going to get it. They are not going to get this at all. They're looking at it as a bike company. I know it. And so they bought it back because
That's
they
awesome.
crashed and burned so badly. They didn't understand that basic idea that you're not actually selling bikes. I know that's the transaction, but it's something different. It's something like Red Bull. You're not really selling sugar water. You're selling something different.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I think that, you know, where the private equity misses why a brand is a brand in the first place. Why is this the thing people want? So it's amazing. So, but I love that you're making all the connections as well, and that's really what I do see some other people coming in here. Let's see here. So Sherry was, let's see here. Sherry's got another company. There's a lot of research why all the big companies started in 1900s after it looks like floods and oh yes. Yes, this is, you're absolutely right. Yeah, no, there is a common thing that happens after big fires. There's always winners. City of London, right? We know about that one, big fire there. Then 1666. There is a lot of things that happen there that do kind of question how these things erupt, not so organically. I totally agree. Yeah, the Mrs. O'Leary's cow didn't burn 18 cities in 10 years. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that happen and a lot of destruction by by the government and how it does that through the years. We can't talk about all of that. Oh my God, I've got a great comment here. There you go. I agree. Krista Murphy rocks. I think you got a great, and what I
Thank
like
you,
is
Sherry. You rock too.
you have a really good head on your shoulders. You see things, and I think you got the right value system. You know, you have the right value system because it's about people, right? Can correct me
It's
if I'm
about
wrong.
people. And like, even though all of this is happening, Anthony, I'm an eternal optimist. I am like, this is the last death rattle of an old regime, and we're going to change it. I believe that.
Oh yes, yes. Oh my God, I agree. I'm with you. I think we got something going here. This is the last. I think that when you break down the process and break down what people are actually looking for, like we did today, I think we have great news to be optimistic. We have
Yeah.
fantastic. If you see the trap, Problem awareness is the first step in the problem avoidance. If we
Yes.
can't right? And so we've just described the problem perfectly, how it's been happening, and we've been getting great comments from people living it firsthand. Borchelle is just listening here today. Thanks for joining us, Borchelle. Thanks. I think we're really, really enjoying this. So there we are. I think you got the right thing. So, I mean, you got to be helping. I love that you're helping out. So prospectively, it's better for companies to reach out to you before they do it, but they probably
Yeah,
won't.
but a
But they're
lot
not
of
gonna.
times it's like I am the ringmaster of the shit show for a lot of them, where they've already done the thing and they're a little bit like the power of being an outside people operations, because I hate the term HR, although I use it because it's just a shorthand. People understand it a little bit better. The beauty of it is internal HR feels like the principal's office.
Yep.
Externally, you bring me in and I'm your secret weapon. And I'm on your side. And I never shame a company or a leader for what they've done. I have a HR red flags training that I give a lot of the times for companies who maybe they're not super big enough to have an HR leader, or maybe their HR person is just completely overburdened. And I go in and I tell them all the things they need to know to be a little dangerous and not say the wrong thing. And a lot of times they're kind of sitting on their hands. Well, like, someone did something and that's why we're having the meeting. And so I lead that with a story of one of my like worst leadership moments to level set. Like, if you're a leader, you're gonna make mistakes. You're going to do the wrong thing. Let's just hope that like we're failing upward and we go, oh God, I can't believe that I like chewed that person out in front of everybody else. It's just like I feel horrible at 4 a.m. thinking about it, but I'm never gonna do it again because I learned something from that. And here are all the other things that you probably shouldn't do from a legal standpoint and from an HR standpoint, but it gets people more engaged than if you go into your internal HR director and say, oh, I did this thing. They're going to discipline you because it's part of their job. I'm here to teach you to get better and to level you up and to empower leaders to thrive, not to slap you on the wrist when you did something wrong, which
Oh
is,
my
for
God.
me, it's the work that I love that drives me. And it's people then in operations actually connecting with the why of it without someone saying, you did it wrong and now you're in trouble and never do it again. We're not learning in that moment, right? We're defensive when I come in and say, like, of course you did that. You're a human being. They're like, right? I have a lot going on. They cut my leader out, right? I'm running it all now. And no one taught me how. And I say, well, of course you're stressed out. I would
Oh
be
my
too.
God.
Let's get better together.
Well, I think you positioned yourself in what you do perfectly, because HR departments can be that fiefdom. They typically are the gatekeepers, and they can kind of get a little full of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So you're able to come in, outside of that. I think that's going to be the best way, because, if you think about it as a leader, part of your human resources is your human resources. That is, they might be the problem too. Or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, let me put it different. There might be opportunities to improve there as well.
For
Um,
sure.
and
Well,
so,
think about it. If you're like an operational leader and you have a huge team of, let's say, 25 people in a warehouse, and your HR person who's, let's say, 29 years old, because you're a small company and you don't have anything that is really any better than that, is going to tell you how to lead, and they came here after college and they have maybe one coordinator that reports to them in a team of 2, and they're going to tell you how to lead. I see it all the time. It's such a disconnect where the reason that I am powerful to a company is because I think in operations. I know the stress that they are in out there because I have been in that same stress. And what I learned in operations that made me believe in the power of psychological safety, right? That made me believe we owe it as leaders to give that to our people. And it causes a ripple effect that who knows how big it gets, right? I'm great to you at work. You feel good going home. Your husband is a little happier. Your kids feel a little bit better. You're nice to the barista at daybreak, whatever it is. It is powerful. And I think when you are talking to somebody who has never led a team really and felt that magic, and they're giving you advice on how to lead moment without ever having been screamed at like that by their top talent in the moment. They don't know. And it's such a disconnect. And operational leaders walk away feeling like, what hypocrisy for you to sit there and tell me how to lead when you've never
Yeah.
led.
That is something. All right. Well, all right. So I want to thank you so much, Chris. I want to thank everyone who joined us today. This has been eye-opening to me and very optimistic, and we need it. We need optimism here. And boy, does the future look, the next, the future seems very clear to me, and who's going to win and who's going to lose, and the people who see what's happening and can break free of the conditioning, the training, and the goals you're told to have.
Yeah.
There's going to be some really great things happening, and just being able to go. I mean, just all my goal in life is to have Mondays not be terrible. Like that's my goal. Mondays are always going to be Monday, right? How
Yeah.
terrible is it going to be? And that's really, I think, what heaven is like for me. Can we just not have Mondays so awful? So much to do, so much. And so, the big thing that can get you excited about a Monday is when you want to see the people you want to work with.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. And that's a big difference. So Krista, thanks so much for joining us today. And thanks for your mission and what you're doing. And people can reach out to you at thepeoplepath.com. That's your website. Is that a great place for them to find you?
Absolutely.
All right, great. Well, I hope to see more of you. I kind of want to do some live presentations with you. Maybe we can do some around, because I think you have a lot to say that's incredibly important to every. I can't think of one business owner who shouldn't be listening to something you're saying here. I mean, you are doing a great job, so appreciate that. And with that, thanks so much, Krista. This is Anthony, parent of Iris Medic. And you know what? If you are someone who is on the front lines and you want to talk about some of your experiences about what's going on, you can reach out to me. We do we do talk about tax, but tax implicates so many things. And really, tax isn't really your goal. Making money is your goal, and that's what we're really trying to focus on. Not so much what the government gets, but what you get to keep. If you want to be a guest, you can reach out to me at at irsmedic.com. And likewise, if you're looking to set up your business or get any tax prep done, we have our full tax advisor. And I didn't tease this. I'm doing this. Let me get this up here. This is something exciting that I'm doing. We have a really good turnout so far. I'm doing this one, and maybe you'll be here at Krista. Let me do the screen share. Here it is. Look at this. I am doing the probate will awareness workshop at the Wallingford Public Library, and I'll put the link in the super chat for anyone who does want to register for it. We got some people showing up. It's not too bad. I think we're already at 50 people. It's going to be packed, and the capacity is only 120, and it's next week. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We're doing a lot more probate and trust work. And really what I'm seeing is we're seeing just a lot more probate and trust tax issues, because this is the thing, Krista, that we've seen. We used to do a lot of business tax problems. And the reason is why, and this is sort of another dynamic that's happening in the background. The reason why is because most baby boomers 20 years ago were in the wealth accumulation stage of their life where tax problems would erupt. Now, and that's kind of still our core group is still baby boomers. Well, they're not in the wealth accumulation stage as much right now, but now the issues involving probate, trust, wills, inheritances, and the issues that we're causing. So there's so much bad advice I see going out there, and just terrible problems it's causing. I'm just getting out there to try to educate people on, getting rid of some of the nonsense people have, and really finding, an estate plan, figuring out what it is for you. And this idea that you need to be sold on something and there's a one size fits all solution, but we're going to go over everything. So it's going to be at the Wallingford Public Library, and I'm going to put the link right in the super chat. If it's something you're around, anyone wants to show up. That's something we're doing, and it is a lot of fun. It is actually a lot of fun. Some of the issues that we're seeing. So you have that. I have that going on.
That's awesome. I'm going to drag my boomer mom kicking and screaming.
Oh my God, please do that. Yeah, please. Oh, there's so much, and oh man, and there's so much little knowledge people have wrong, that they're like, oh no, I didn't want to do that because of this. And you're like, that's not true. This is true. Like, oh. And like, I think I could make a fortune just being like the lowest level attorney ever. Just like, okay, no, that's not what it is. No, it's this. Oh, That's constantly what I do all day long. It's just little things people have wrong, and then that leads them to the wrong whole conclusion. So it's like, nope, let's back up here. This is what we can do instead. It's much simpler. So that's what I enjoy doing and getting that. So hopefully we get some people there. I'd love to see you and your mom. That'd be wonderful. All right. Well, with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And thanks so much, Krista. What a great show. Looking forward to do something more with you in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
And hang on, Krista. I'll talk to you after we go live. So, all right. Thanks, everyone.